If you had to go back and talk to your biological father, what would you say?
Oh, I've thought about that a lot. What I really want to say is, how did you think that doing what you're doing is more important than hanging out with your kid? I was driven to make a life exactly the opposite. I didn't like the pain. We had a lot of financial drama. We were living paycheck to paycheck.
But Jay, people try not to go into that thing all the time.
The pivotal moment for me was I saw Lou Holtz. He was then head football coach at the University of Notre Dame. And this is what changed my life. He said, there's only three things that will change you from where you're at today: the books you read, the people you meet, and the dreams you dream. So I didn't know what a relationship looked like. I didn't know how to handle money. I didn't know how to get a job. I was the first guy to go through college. I need to figure this out. And the only way I can do it, if I don't have a dad, is to find people who can speak into my life.
Single dad, why you mad? Single dad, why you mad?
Single dad,
Why are you mad?
single dad,
Why you mad? Single dad, why you mad? Single dad, why you mad?
single dad, why you mad?
Hail, hail, the gang is all here. Welcome back to another episode of Single Dad, Why You Mad? And we are here. Clark, from now on, I'm going to start saying what date it is so that people know when we're actually recording. Because sometimes, with so many bullets in the clip, we don't get to push episodes out. So today is 7/19, and it is 9:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How was your week?
My week is good. I think I mentioned last time my eldest daughter took off to Miami. So she went on a little vacation. I've got to pick her up from the airport tonight and get the debriefing and see how that all went. So she's flying in. And, the other two are doing well, back here with me and making a mess in my kitchen, sculpting something. I don't know. What's going on your side of the world?
Nothing much. I'm getting ready to close in the door on that deal I was telling you about. We are scheduled right now for the 30th. So we'll see what happens. But while we're here, let's not waste no time, right?
Absolutely.
Miles just went to bed. I'm out here in the living room by myself. I'm sure he will make his way out here at some point to go to the bathroom, to get something, some water or something, right? That's the life of a 5-year-old. But we are here with a guest, and we are going to allow this guest, as we normally do, to introduce themselves and tell everybody as much as they would like about themselves, and then we'll get into our question and answer. Go ahead.
All right, David and Clark, thanks for having me. It's great to meet you guys. In a little session Clark and I had before for a couple minutes, I do appreciate what you guys are doing. I love that you are active dads. You're figuring out life as you go. You're learning things. You're sharing them. You have the right heart. And that's what drew me to reach out to you, because I truly do applaud you and what you're doing. And you've got other things going on, and this is just something that's a passion project for you. So thank you for how you're helping other people.
Okay, so
thank you for being here.
Yes. What name can we refer to you as?
You can refer to me as Jay Millar.
We can call you Jay Millar. Okay.
You can call me Jay. It's hard. I don't have any nicknames. Jay doesn't really lend to many nicknames. You can just call me Jay.
So sometimes people want to remain anonymous for obvious reasons, and then for some reasons that are not so obvious, right? But as long as you're okay with it, we're okay with it. Jay, where do you live?
I live just outside of Denver, Colorado.
Just outside of Denver, Colorado. What time is it out there in Denver, Colorado?
It is 2 hours before you. It's just at 8 p.m. Mountain Time.
Mountain Time. Okay. What's the weather like out there right now?
It's about 90, dry, and warm. Yep.
You guys are going through one of those droughts out there? Are you going through a drought?
Denver, by definition, is kind of in a high desert, so we're generally pretty dry. Living at a mile above sea level, there's not a lot of humidity up here, and so yeah, it's generally dry, and we get a lot of rain, but it's not like it is where you guys live, where you got to change shirts every hour.
Right, with the humidity. Yeah. It's funny because people say that about the weather. It's like, it's not humid. It's a dry heat. That's whether you boil something or bake something, you're still cooking.
Well, we can get in the shade and it feels cool. I don't think you have that luxury in some parts of the East Coast or in the Midwest.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
You got a question, David?
Yeah, Jay, how old are you?
I am 54 years old.
And how many kids do you have, Jay?
I've been married for 25 years, and I have 3 boys, 24, 22, and 20. One is married, and the other 2 are in college still.
And you are married now?
I am married now. Yep.
And how long have you been married now? 20, what'd you say?
25 years.
And prior to that?
Got married in my late 20s. So no, just a guy going through college and figuring out my way.
Okay. So, Jay, normally, right, we ask the question like, Clark, go ahead.
Well, normally when we have a guest on, we ask the question of how the fuck did you get here? Our foundational question. Meaning, for most of our guests, they're coming on with the best of intentions, saying, I found this person, I love this person, or at least really like this person in the moment, and we had this kid. And with the best of intentions, how did I end up as a single parent? Not necessarily your case, but you could use that time to tell people how you found us and kind of where you thought the synergies lie when you reached out.
Yeah.
About the project you're working on.
I was on the other end. I kind of grew up in that. I didn't necessarily have a single mom. My parents divorced when I was 10, so I grew up in a home filled with alcoholism and domestic violence. And my parents divorced when I was 10. My mom quickly remarried and married a younger guy, and he was on his own journey. So what that meant to me is, I was just trying to figure out my way in the world. I was going through a lot of anger. Why isn't my dad showing up? Where is he? Right. And that's what I love about you. That's why I was drawn to you guys, because you're showing up and you're trying to make a difference. You're trying to be, and you're active in your children's life. But as a young man, I didn't feel that. I mean, I think my dad loved me, but he was ill. He passed almost 25 years ago. We had probably as good a relationship as we ever had around the time that he passed. But I went through a lot of anger, like, at distinct times in my life when I was going through critical moments, going to college or getting married or having a kid, and you want a dad just to say, hey, little help, what's going on? I felt like I had to figure out every step along the way on my own. And the reason I think I felt I had to figure out everything along the way is, one, I was pretty naive. I thought I was the only cat that didn't know anything. And now that I'm looking back, I just chuckle because a lot of us don't know what's going on, and we're figuring it out step by step, even if we did have a great father. But you don't want to show weakness. You don't want to feel weak around your friends and ask some of those questions and say that you don't know what it's all about. And a lot of times you don't know what to do. So I would get passive at those times in my life. And if there was something critical, I'd kind of say, uh-oh, I don't know what to do. And I'd get passive and just hope the whole situation blew over. And that's not the best way to act as a man. You can get into a lot of trouble if you do that. And I did.
So going a little bit back to the family situation. So you said you had a stepdad who was on his own journey.
Yep.
Did you ever develop a relationship with him where you could ask him questions in that way? Or even now as a 50-some-odd-year-old man.
Yeah, he passed away as well. He had some other troubles later in life. When he was married to my mom, he was just like this loving soul who just didn't know where to go. He had experimented with some substances, drug type substances, and he was in and out of that. Ultimately, that's what ended up getting him. So I had a father that died of alcoholism and a stepfather that had trouble with other substance abuse.
Holy Hannah! And did you grow up in Colorado or
Yeah, I was born and raised. I'm a native. I left for a few years to join the military. Lived in back then it was West Germany for a couple of years to get the GI Bill so I could pay my way through college. But other than that, I've primarily been in Colorado, but traveling around the world for business and things like that. But always lived here.
So let's turn and look at your journey now. So growing up in Colorado, you have quite a bit of anger from that your father not being in place and not necessarily being as active with you as you would like. Your stepdad, who most people would think was come in and fill those shoes, he's going through his own problems and his own demons. So now you're kind of left to your own devices to figure these things out.
So Clark, that's a good point, right? So that gets back to the question, then how the fuck did you get here where you are a man, right, Clark? Is this where you were going?
That's exactly where I was headed. So,
who didn't fuck it up, who didn't, get stuck up in alcohol. And I don't know, I'm just asking, maybe you did, you had your own stint and you came out of it. I have no idea. But how is it that you did not fall into that trap and you did stay there and raise your kids and, all the other stuff that goes along with it?
And maintain a marriage for 25 years. Because that's what I want to know,
how the fuck did you get there?
Well, like I said, I was driven from the time I was in adolescence, so we'll say middle school, high school, to make a life exactly the opposite. I didn't like the pain. We had a lot of financial drama. We were living paycheck to paycheck. I remember,
but Jay, people live that. People try not to go into that thing all the time. You understand what I'm saying?
The pivotal moment for me was I was in my early 20s, and this is before YouTube and all those things. You had to catch stuff because you couldn't go back and watch it, right? So I was watching a college football game. And I saw Lou Holtz. He was then head football coach at the University of Notre Dame. He said something, this is what changed my life. He said, there's only 3 things that will change you from where you're at today to where you're going to be 5 years from now. And I internalized that to mean for the rest of my life. And he said, those 3 things are the books you read, the people you meet, and the dreams you dream. And I internalized that to mean, okay, I don't have a father speaking into my life, but I can create I can create a set of advisors, a virtual set of advisors. I didn't use that language when I was in my early 20s, but I thought it. I said, I can get a tapestry of people, either mentors or books. I mean, there's books are sharing some things that have stood the test of time, best practices. So I said, I'm going to intentionally put those things together. I didn't know what a relationship looked like. I didn't know how to handle money. I didn't know how to get a job. I was the first guy to go through college. And I said, I need to figure this out. And the only way I can do it, if I don't have a dad, is to find people who can speak into my life.
And you came to this, in fairly young age, right?
I was in my early 20s. And oh, by the way, I went to the University of Colorado, and we hated Notre Dame. So I didn't even like Lou Holtz. I didn't want to listen to him at the moment. But it was great advice. He borrowed that term from another motivational speaker in the 60s named
They always do.
Yeah, nothing new, but it was Charlie Tremendous Jones who said that in the 60s. I never heard Charlie Tremendous Jones until I did some research on it, but that's really why I said, okay, how am I gonna do this? And so that's what really launched me on my journey. That's why I call it My Virtual Dad, which is what I'm doing to help mentor other people. Is you might not always have a father speaking into your life, so put together one of your own, build your own that's going to be helpful and good.
I think it's really interesting that at such a young age you had the ability to introspect like that, or even receive the message when it came, right? And when you think about messaging, or how we receive things when the universe is talking to us, as it were. It's really dependent on where you are, on what you're doing, and what your mindset is. Because you could have completely been in a totally different space, as you mentioned, Lou Holtz, I don't want to listen to anything he has to say. Turn the volume down and completely miss it, right? This epiphany that happens.
Right.
My Virtual Dad. Talk about it.
Well, so I started that intentionality of reaching out to men. I formed some men's groups 25 years ago. I just wanted to get around other guys. Again, that's why I was drawn to you guys. You're broadcasting and sharing lessons that will benefit others. But back then we had to get together. We had to go to coffee shops or breakfast or sit in a conference room and we generally just read a book. It was a faith-based men's group, but we would read anything. I mean, we'd read Lone Survivor. We would read, some bestseller and just talk about, hey, how does this impact our life? Maybe we'd talk about finances so we could get a little smarter on that. Maybe we did some books where we talk about, things that could trip us up. We did a pornography, don't walk down that deep dark path of pornography, right? Every man has a battle that they fight with things like that. So just kind of started a history of trying to reach out to other men and help each other out through life. and I could learn from some, and I could teach others. So it was kind of both ends of the spectrum. I'd learn and I'd teach.
So, do you guys have like a website or an Instagram or a Facebook following? Or community?
No, our men's group. No, we just some of these guys I've been meeting with for 20 years. One of them's my brother Dean, who's he's one of the heroes of my life. So he's 4 years older than me. He kind of has really helped guide me. When I was younger, and even today, we're very close. But so then about 5 years ago, I started mentoring like my nephew. He and I weren't really close, and he'd say, "Hey, Uncle Jay, I'm kind of struggling with some stuff. Can we talk?" And we'd go to a coffee shop and we'd sit down and we'd talk through some things. And he was going through some hard times. But then he would say, "Hey, my buddy Ryan wants to join too. Can he come in and talk?" and so this pattern started to emerge, and it's like, some of it's just really emotional, dealing with your stuff from the past. I mean, the wounds of how you got to where you're at. We've all got wounds. We probably spent half the time talking about wounds, and then we spent about half the time talking about practical stuff, like, I'm interviewing for a job. Can you teach me how to do that? My finances are a wreck. I'm deep in debt, or what should I do? Things like that. So just started, and then the pandemic hit, and that was kind of the final pivot point. Is we couldn't get together in coffee shops, so started pulling together Zoom meetings like this just to help people out while they were we're all in our own homes locked down.
Yeah.
And how many people, when you get your meetings together now, how many people do you think you got on, or what's your following? What's the size of your community now?
The community is just growing. I've done a few pilot projects with different men's groups. I've done some younger men. I've done some older men. So I'm trying to tune it. I have a 90-day boot camp, and I'm really not here trying to promote it, other than to say, hey man, you're. But
I think it's a good idea that people hear this. I think it's.
I just want men first and foremost to know they're not alone. I mean, I beat myself up. I had this talk track going on that I was the only guy going through this, and I wasn't smart enough to figure it out, and everybody else had it figured out. I mean, when you go through alcoholism and domestic violence in the 70s, it's taboo. You don't talk about it. You don't talk about it. And so we just kind of, shrouded ourselves in a little bit of shame, and we just dealt with it the best we could. Today we're better talking about depression, and if women are in danger, I'm hoping we're talking about it. I still know it's out there. It breaks my heart every time I hear a story about that. But so I'm doing pilots, and I've got a 90-day boot camp just for men who are saying, "Hey, I haven't had a father and I want to get on track." I'm starting some other things, like a quick start pre-marriage thing. If you want to increase the chances of success in marriage, there's no guarantee, but boy, we can get better than the 40 to 50%, divorce rate. We can, if you sit down and you talk about things like finances and in-laws and kids, and, nothing's perfect, but you can get a little bit further down the road faster, and try to avoid some bear traps along the way.
Yeah, I think that makes absolute sense, right? So there's a couple things that you mentioned through the My Virtual Dad that I think are really great. Yeah, and like in some of our pre-conversations emails, I believe the way you phrase it is like, "Shit, I wish my dad had said."
Yeah.
Right. And like that really struck a chord with me, because there's so many dudes that I have conversations with, whether it be older guys who are giving me information or younger guys who come to me for information, kind of that same place. And a lot of it, when you're seeking that information, is, "God, I wish my dad had said this to me," or "I wish I had a dad to say this stuff to me." Right. So there's absolutely that void in that gap. So you're definitely providing a helpful service. And the fact that what you were leading into with marriage, right, is another thing. Like I mentioned to you, I'm one of 5 siblings, and me and my siblings talk about marriage and dating and coupling and so forth a lot. And we always talk about the idea that as single people, we have no idea what marriage truly entails. Like we're not told what the actual process looks like when you get into it, and how ill prepared the average person is, and why the divorce rate is so high, because people go into something thinking it's one thing and don't have the conversation to level set. So yeah, as you mentioned, like kind of how you're doing your outreach, man. It's stuff that's necessary.
Jay, if you had to go back and talk to your biological father, what would you say to him?
Oh, I've thought about that a lot. I would, one, I would say I forgive him. I don't know if he wants forgiveness, but I don't think he was happy throughout his life. I think he beat himself up a lot.
So where did he come from? What was his story that you think may have led him to where he got to?
That's a great question. As far as I can decipher, he didn't have this modeled by his father, and I don't know that to be absolute fact. I know his mother went through a lot of depression. Again, back in the '60s, it wasn't, saying things like depression and bipolar, and I don't know what she was. She was in and out of mental hospitals.
Buck up, young man. Buck up.
Yeah. But I would say,
they gave you?
what I really want to say is, how did you think that doing what you're doing is more important than hanging out with your kid? That just mystifies me. That's a question I'd ask him.
And if you had to do the same thing for your stepdad, what would you say to him, or what would you ask him?
Oh man, I'd probably, I'd like to take him under my wing now. Looking back, he was the exact opposite of my dad in the sense that he was a very loving man. There was no domestic violence. He didn't have he had a wonderful heart. Loved my mom the best he could, but he was totally struggling with basics in life, like jobs and finance, and he didn't have any confidence in any other aspects of like running a household. He was just kind of this lost soul going around, almost like he had a gypsy like mentality. He just wanted to go around and just be friendly to everybody, but didn't have any serious responsibility.
Your mom, what would you say to her?
I talked to her. We live close to each other. We love each other. We talk often. I help her. She helps me. And we talked about it. I recorded a similar podcast.
So wait a minute now. You say you talked about it. Be clear about what
we talked about. We talked about our relationship, and we have a slight disagreement. I would love to be closer to my mom. I would love to be closer to my mom and have a deeper relationship. She thinks she's very comfortable with where we're at, and I do help her a lot. I help her with finances, and we're getting ready. She's almost 80. We're looking at the next steps in her life, and I try to support her as much as I can. But we don't have a deep emotional relationship.
I mean,
do you have a deep emotional relationship with your mama, the woman I call mama? Also, do you have a deep emotional relationship with her?
What's really interesting is I feel like, and my siblings and I talk about this a lot too. My parents got a lot more emotional over time, right? And even though my mother is far more emotional, like whenever I describe my mother, I call her the most loving, caring, supportive, and verbally abusive woman you'll ever meet in your life, right?
By the way, Mia told me about some of that, but keep going.
Right. So like my mom would be the person who encourages you. By the way, you got a B, you got a C. Barbara's son took the same test last week, and he's a fucking idiot. You're smarter than him. He's not smarter than you, is he? Okay, get in there and do better. Like she's not a person to mince words. And like even when she met my ex-wife, I remember my ex-wife going like, I don't know if mom likes me, and then or there was some conversation she was having with somebody about it. And they go, did she hit you yet? Did she smack you in the head? So yeah, she smacked me in the head because I said something or I did something. And she was like, oh. She's like, yeah, she likes you. Because if she didn't, she'd just ignore you. And that's my mom's nature. And
so I'm sorry.
No, so I was just saying, like, in terms of emotional connectivity, like there's that love and support and so forth. But I think it's very much a generational thing. My mom is pushing 80 as well. And there's certain things you just push down and you don't talk about.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Clark. I think a lot of it is emotional and just what they were brought up with. Not a lot of active parents back when my parents were growing up.
Oh yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to break down some of that barrier with my mom. Right. I was a piece of shit growing up as a teenager. Okay. Literally, I was a piece of shit. Right. I used to steal shit out the house. I used to do all kind of fucking bullshit, right? I had my stunt with running out, hanging out late and drinking 40s and smoking marijuana. I did all of that sort of stuff, right? And then I decided at some point around, 23, 24 to get my life together, right? And I remember I was talking to some friends, who were also trying to get their lives together. A bunch of them were older than me. And so one of them came to me and said, Dave, I hear you talk like that. Did you ever think to go back to your mom and like apologize for being such a piece of shit when you were growing? I was like, oh shit, are you serious? And then I went and I did it, right? And I noticed that our relationship changed after that, right? And she just started treating me different. And one of the ways she treated me different, and I didn't even realize this, was that I'm the youngest of 5, right? When it came time when she knew she was going on and she knew she was sick, she called me. How do you call the person who was known as the black sheep of the family in to come and take care of your affairs? And I didn't know that's what she was calling me for. So I called the rest of my brothers and sisters, and we're all meeting up at the house. And when it's all over, she says to me, what did you do that for? I didn't call them. I called you. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know. I was the black sheep of the family. I didn't know that I had gone from the worst to the best, or you understand what I'm saying? But I guess all I'm really trying to say is that happened when I went first and exposed myself. Maybe I should try that more often.
That's what vulnerability does. When you go and you
Yes.
confess and you say, hey, I'm sorry about this. I mean, I think my mom was extraordinarily strong. She got divorced in like 1977. I think she had a part-time job, but had no credit. Like her name wasn't even on the bank account.
You weren't allowed back then. Yes, you weren't allowed.
So it's like, how is she going to take over things like mortgages and pay for it? It's very scary, it's not like that today at all, but she was very, very strong to get out of an abusive relationship, but she didn't really have plan B, like how's this going to work out? She just knew she had to get out of it.
Yeah, we talk about like flying the plane and changing the oil at the same time, and she's literally like building the plane and having it airborne at the same time. You could sense that it was one of those things that you struggle to figure it out as you're going along. So tell us a bit about the family you built yourself, right? So you're married for 25 years, and I think that correct me if I'm wrong, that level setting. And a lot of that, the kind of grace that you're talking about. So talk to us a bit about that, and then ultimately like the parenting part of it. Raising 3 boys.
David, you said you're 23, 24 when you decided to get your life together. I mean, that's ironically and coincidentally when the frontal lobe develops. And I've told that to my boys since they were young. I said, yeah, you're gonna think I'm really dumb now, but when you get into your early 20s, you're gonna think I got a lot smarter in a short amount of time, right?
And by the time you get 40, you'll think I'm a fucking genius. You're gonna say my dad was a fucking genius when he turned 40. What the fuck was I talking?
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, it's a combination. I think how'd you describe your mom, Clark? The most
loving, caring, supportive, and verbally abusive person I've ever met.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I call it slap and tickle. I mean, you encourage them along the way, but you try to call them out on their stuff, and let them. They want to know boundaries, so they've got to know that you care. So try to do that. And I've tried to pour into their life. I mean, that was one of the pivotal moments on this journey was when I turned 50 and I was writing that letter, what would I tell myself if I could go back and talk to 20-year-old Jay? And I was like, oh, I got a 20-year-old. How about I just write this to him? I mean, save him a lot of the hassle. Right. And I could have been a punk ass kid as well. If I had a dad speaking into my life and kind of guiding me, I could have been that guy that said, no, I got it figured out. I mean, I could have been that guy in my late teens, right? But I think what's really helped out is being vulnerable. I've shared with them a bunch of the mistakes that I've made, right? Like, hey guys, there's nothing you can bring me that's worse than something that I did myself. And I can guarantee that. So bring it to me. If something goes wrong, call me, make me the first call. Don't try to go into a cave. I don't think you're perfect. I don't want you to think I'm perfect, and that's why I shared with them a bunch of the mistakes that I told them how I drank and drove in high school a bunch. I should be dead. I should absolutely be dead. And I'm ashamed of it. I'm not proud of it. I'm glad I didn't kill myself or somebody else. But I share stuff like that with them, and I think that leads to some credibility. And they know my heart. They know in my heart that I care. So that's how I've tried to be with them, and I call it slap and tickle or grace and truth. You know, give them grace if they make a mistake, and give them the truth that they need to hear, because sometimes you do get those hard truths, just like your mom, Clark. Go study harder. You're smarter than that, kid. Get out there and do it.
It's interesting because that's kind of the approach I take with my kids, because my kids are a bit older, 20, 14, and 13. And absolutely the conversation about making me the first call. If you get into a situation my phrasing tends to be a little bit more abrasive, but I'm like, listen, first off, don't make me the asshole. Like if I'm going to go in and I'm going to bat for you, I'm going to articulate for you, I'm going to war for you. Don't give me faulty information.
Yep.
Right? Don't make me that guy, because then the truth comes to light, and now I'm fighting a fight that didn't need to be fought for somebody who's in the wrong. Don't do that to me. Secondly, let me know what I'm working with so I can help you get out of it. Because I have a vested interest to making sure that you're safe and making sure that you come out of the equation better off than you were before, or with at least less harm. Right? Work with me. Let's have the conversation. And I think their comfort in having those conversations with me stems from what you said, right? Granting that grace and granting that truth. Say, okay, you know what? I don't expect you to be perfect. School is probably the only place in the world, in your life, where people expect you to be great at everything. That's fine. And when you mess up, hey, we're human. That's what happens. And the truth. Sometimes you got to give them the hard truth. But it builds that rapport and it builds that level of comfort so that they will come to you with it.
I only have a 5-year-old. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing about this. But the only thing I can tell you is that he has a phone, his own phone, and he puts it on a stand, and he takes it into the bathroom. And whenever he's taking a bath or a shower, he sits it up on the stool in the bathroom so he can watch videos while he's in the tub, whatever else it is, right? And I have told his ass 100 times, do not put the phone near the fucking tub. 100 times I've said this shit to him. And then the other day, it was a while ago, he comes out to me and he says to me, the phone is in the water. And I said, what? And he said, the phone fell in the water. I go in there, and yeah, the phone was literally in the water, and it was still playing, and I took it out. It didn't get wet. I guess it had the cover around it, so the water didn't seep in, whatever else it is. And I said to him, Miles, thank you for coming to tell me. I want you to feel like you can come and tell me whatever it is. Don't be afraid to come tell me. I may get mad at you, I may get upset at you, but you should still just come tell me. Do not be afraid to come tell me. And then I tried to kiss him, and he says he's too big to kiss, and leave it at that. But
he's too big to kiss, and he's 5 now, right?
He's too big for kiss.
I think I did that exact same thing to my dad at age 7 or age 6 or 7. I think it was 6. One night, kissed my mom and dad goodnight when they were still married when I was that young, and I walked up. I said, I can't kiss you anymore. And I shook his hand goodnight. I don't know where that came from.
So prepare for life in sales. Meanwhile, with daughters, it's usually them who draw the line. At some point, they're like, can you not kiss me? Can you not? And then when they get older, they're a lot better about it. Like my oldest daughter is huggy and kissy. The 2 younger ones, not as much. But you talk about the relationship with your parents, and the emotional vulnerability that comes with time. Because with my sisters would always say my dad and mom were not huggers and kissers when they were growing up. But then as they got older, especially when they were in their teens and leaving the house, my parents became more into hugging and kissing.
I had a mentor give me that advice. He says, hey, when they're in their teens, hug them and kiss them all you can. The boys.
Yeah.
They're going to be greasy. They're going to be smelly. They're not going to want it, but that's when they need it the most. And I bought into that, and hug them all I can.
It makes a difference.
Nephews are 39 and 41, and every time I see them, I try to kiss them. I was with my family over the weekend, and my older cousins, whatever else it is, whenever I hug him, I always give him a kiss on the cheek. But guys, we've been at this for a little while. We need to wind down. Jay, it was really good talking to you.
Thanks for having me on again. I'm fans of yours, so keep doing what you're doing.
How did you find us?
I did a search for, I think I did a search as something like Men Helping Men. And you came up along there somewhere, you know.
And how many episodes would you say you've listened to so far?
Probably 5 or 6. 5 or 6.
Good.
I wrote you about those in those letters. Yeah. Boy, I'm drawing a blank. It's the gal who was in a domestic violence situation. I listened to that. I mean, you can tell that hit close to home to me, and I just wanted to see what it was like and how somebody else navigated that situation. So, the guy from the UK, I think that was a 2-part episode as well. Raising his son and being active in his life.
Well, shout out to David and Miles today, because today is his son's birthday, his first birthday.
Is it, Clark?
It is.
Oh, I got to send him happy birthday. All right. And you got Wilson on the wall.
I got Wilson, you know, when the pandemic hit, I used to have just a blank wall back there, and I just invested a few bucks in a little bit of time, put up interesting things. We're all on castaways on an island during the pandemic when we had to work at home, so needed a buddy there to help me out, to talk to.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you, especially with 20-something kids. You're probably spending a lot of time with nobody to talk to.
All right, so, Mark, anything you want to add before we close out there, buddy?
Yeah, so actually really quickly, Jay, where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you're doing, or if they say, hey, I kind of need somebody to give me a little bit of direction?
Yeah, reach out to me at myvirtualdad.net is the website, and you can contact me there. And my email is jay at myvirtualdad.net, so you can reach out there. I've got a newsletter. I send it out. Got a pretty good following. I'll talk to them about this podcast on there as well. And, I just try to send out a helpful tip every other week. It's nothing big. I know people are busy and they don't have time to read a lot of stuff, but try to send out something helpful to men, help support them. I think my final comment is I think men are in danger as well. I mean, and that's the final thing that I'm really trying to reach out to. Men feel alone. Men, the depression, the substance abuse, the suicide rate, the dropouts, all those things for men are just way above that for women. And it's not in vogue to talk about helping men right now, but men need help. And I truly do have a heart because, again, I think men don't want to feel weak, and they don't want to show that they don't know what's going on. And they have a more difficult time connecting than women do in general. Don't like to make broad brush statements, but I think they do. So, reach out. If it's not me, reach out to a buddy, reach out to somebody else. You're not alone. We're all fighting a battle, and there's help out there for you if you're feeling like you're struggling.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You said something very interesting in your relationship with your son. You said, "Don't go into your cave," and that's an analogy that I often share with the women in my life when dealing with men. With women, when they're emotionally hurt, physically hurt, what have you, they look for community. They look for support. I said, you have to think of men as like wolves or bears.
Yeah.
A wounded animal is going to retreat to its den. It's going to retreat to its cave. And, sometimes we need to be alone in our cave, and we need to process, and we need to heal, and then we'll come back out. And there's other times where, he's been in the back of that cave for a really long time. And maybe I should venture in and see what's going on. And I realize that's the juggle and the balance that comes with men for all of those reasons that you mentioned. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being willing to be a guiding resource for men who need it.
Clark, call to action.
Ladies, gentlemen, and consenting adults, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Single Dad Why You Mad podcast. We love and appreciate you. We are everywhere that you can find podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Stitcher. We are also on social media. So you should make sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. We're not there as much. And make sure, to check out some of our videos on YouTube. David, anything else you want to add?
It's Single Dad why you mad? Not single dad, why am I mad?
Single dad, why you mad? Single dad, why you mad?
Single dad. Why are you mad? Single dad. Why you mad?
Single dad, why you mad?
Single dad.
Why you mad?
Single dad. Why you mad?